Zurna dürüm. Archvale Game Pass'te var. Escape Simulator alabilirsin. Hatta bugün Escape Simulator oynayacağız büyük ihtimalle tekrar. Hades alınır. Hades de güzel ama o da Game Pass'te var. Halo da Game Pass'te var. Game Pass'te olunca alasım gelmiyor abi. Bir şey. Bilmiyorum. Parayı boşa harcıyormuşum gibi hissediyorum. Dur bir saniye. Direksiyon sökeyim. FF14 olabilir. FF14'ün chain almaya gerek yok. Free trial ile aynı şey o. Kabloları çok dert abi bunun. Ya ben mesela şöyle kaldırıyorum. Hiçbir kablosunu sökmüyorum. Direkt kasanın üzerine koyuyorum. Ama bu beni tilt ediyor açıkçası. Bu pazara kadar umursamıyorum çünkü zaten gidecek. Ama yani sürekli bunu kullanıyor olsam tilt olurum. Aynen ayrı için subscription ama senelik subscription 60 TL'ye düşüyor. Asıl subscription pahalı değil. O ucuz olan kısmı. Arabaları almak pahalı. Geldi mi? Ya result. Ya uga buga. Niye bu kadar uzun sürdü ya? Normalde bu kadar uzun sürmüyor.
Kapağı aç yapalım.
Yok o direkt web sitesi olduğu için. Ama bir şeye bakıyorum. Ya bu manyak herif yine şey yapmış. $2500 laptop almış.
For these broken laptops, now it's time to see if I can fix them. This Razer laptop was worth over $3,000 when it was new, so we'll save that one for last and start with this Razer laptop. Let's open it up, see if it turns on, and see what's all wrong. This video is sponsored by the Ridge wallet. More on them in a minute. So let's see what happens when we press the power button. Oh, we do have a green light.
Nasıl green light?
It did. Oh yeah, there it is.
Açıldı.
Okay. Got something on the screen. That's good news. Windows could not complete the installation.
Anlıyorum. Abi herifin bulduğu laptopa bak. Windows sıfırdan yüklesen çalışacak. Beleş para.
This would be a great time for me to mention that I have very little experience with software. I'm more of a hardware guy myself, so this should get interesting. Oh,
ya USB'ye takın yükleniyor işte.
We got an error code. That's actually good. That gives me something to go off of. So you'll need to use recovery tools.
En kötü
So before I take the back off of this thing, I'm going to get a USB stick with Windows on it and try and install Windows that way.
Harbiden format aç. 20 TL format at geçer yani.
No idea if I did all that right, but it is installing, it looks like. So I'm just gonna let this install and we'll see what happens. I am 100% sure there's a better way to do this, but what I'm doing is at least working. Okay, so this is the first problem I see since I've reinstalled Windows. It doesn't show any networks here, so I'm gonna keep
wireless
going
anteni sökülmüştür. Birisi büyük ihtimalle tamir edeyim diye içini açtı. Wireless anteni ilk çıkan şeylerden birisi.
And here we go. Good so far. Okay, let's check out this internet problem.
Ha, internet yok.
Yeah, it doesn't even see.
Veya şey olabilir. Fiziksel bir tane AirPlay modu varsa onu açmış olabilirler.
Internet. Okay, did not detect a properly installed network adapter. Let's see if it thinks there's any network adapters. Okay, it thinks all of this is here. Also has a Bluetooth problem here, which is interesting.
Bluetooth'la genellikle zaten Wi-Fi aynı.
Let's do a network reset.
Random tuşlara basıyormuş gibi hissediyorum şu anda da.
Nope. And now we're reinstalling Windows yet again. This time it seems like it's actually taking a little bit longer, so I'm hopeful that maybe it's installing everything that it needs.
Nedir anlam
It is also
tuşlara
possible
basıyor.
that there's just a problem with the hardware on this. I'm hoping that's the problem because I
Yok
really want to
donanımsal
open
bu
this thing
bence.
up. And here we
Aa
go.
yo
It just
çalıştı.
found my network. This is great news.
Nasıl yükledin lan
Okay, and this
Windows'u?
all looks great. We are connected to the
Windows'u
internet.
nasıl... Windows yanlış yükleyip wireless'ı yok etmek mümkün mü lan?
And I don't see any other problems with this. I will test this a little bit more off camera, but it looks like this Razer is fully fixed. Let's move on to this
Ha,
HP
öyle bir şeyin
Spectre
olabildiğini bile
360.
bilmiyorum
I'm
yani.
not sure how to turn this on.
Hayır driverlardan dolayı değil de Windows'u tekrar yükledi herif.
There we go.
Batuhan Black çok
That's
seviyorum
something on
Seraro'ya
the
abone
screen.
ettiğin için.
Now, this one
Seraro
I've already
18
got-
milyar milyon canımsın.
Shut up.
Ne
So
buna
this one I've
açıldı bu?
got set up. I wanted to save some time in the video by making sure Windows was all pre-installed. So the one thing I wanted to check on this is the charging system. We get 19.7 volts and 1.29 amps, which is great. Now it's fully powered off. Let's see if it charges now. Okay, and it does charge now. So the reason I sound a little surprised is I did
Ya bu ne oğlum? Bunların hepsi çalışıyor.
try and charge all of these
Ne yaptı? Power tuşunu mu bulamadı satan herif? Bozuk diye.
laptops up before the video started, just so then I didn't have to do that in the video. And this one wasn't charging when it was turned off. Clearly now it is. I'm thinking the battery was just fully charged.
Bataryası öldüğü için mi herif göndermiş? Arabanın küllü doldu. Verelim arabayı.
When I tried to do that test. So now I need to test and see if there's anything else I noticed that is wrong with this one. After this is fully updated, I'm going to test it more off camera and I'll come back to it if I find anything interesting. Let's move on to one of the larger laptops, this Acer Nitro 5. I know for sure there's something wrong with this one, so let's check it out. But before we do that, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video,
reklam.
the Ridge Wallet. The Ridge
Konuş
Wallet
abi.
has over 30 colors and styles, including carbon
Aha,
fiber
gelmiş
and
resultlar.
titanium. These wallets are so high quality that
Sırf
there's over
kazadan
40,000
artmadı var ya.
five-star reviews.
Kaza
And even
olmasaydı.
better, you can test drive them for free for 45 days. If you don't like it after 45 days, you can return it for a full refund. This
Yani
wallet is one of my
üçtüm,
new
üç.
favorites that Ridge sells, and it's a topographic map of Half Dome. Another thing I love about Ridge is they sell upgrade kits for any wallet available
be.
right on their website. And speaking of their website, you can go to my link in the description, ridge.com/tronicsfix,
Üçüncü
and
sıradan
use code
düşmek de kötü
TRONICSFIX
oluyor.
for
Üçüncü
10% off your
sıradayım.
order. Now is a
Üçüncüyüm
great
oğlum.
time to get a Ridge wallet for you or as a gift for someone else. Now
Bak
let's get to this
üçüncüyüm.
Acer Nitro
Kupayı
5
aldım.
and see if we can figure out what's
Baksana
wrong.
adam
We do have
0.15
power, that's
almış.
good news. Now I've actually already checked this computer and I'll show you what the problem is. So if I'm going to enter a password and I go to press the T key, nothing happens. Y works. U does not work. I works. O works. P does not work. So we've got
Bir saniye ya. Ha bir dakika. Aa yanlış şeydeymişiz ya. Sahte Windows'taymışız.
a problem
Sahte
with the keyboard.
ekrandaymışız.
I'm pretty sure the
Sebebi
only
bu.
thing that could be
Aynen.
going on is something internally. So I think we finally have a laptop that we need to take apart. Okay, any sign of liquid damage? Now I've just been looking at the board a little bit closer and I think I might have found the issue. So look closely at everything you can see and see if you can spot what I spotted. If you look very closely, this is the ribbon cable for the keyboard. This tab is locked fully in. This tab, however, is not. That means that the connection between this ribbon cable and these pins that go to the board is probably not very good. So I'm going to go ahead and just push the
Aynen,
cable
ribbon
in,
Yamuk duruyor
lock this
zaten.
tab fully.
Halletti.
There we go. Make sure both of them are fully pushed down. And now let's see if that keyboard works. Okay, and this is the test. Does the T work? Oh no, it still doesn't work.
Keyboard
I
çalışmayacak
thought for
abi.
sure that was
Bence
gonna fix
sıvı
it.
o.
Okay, well, back to the drawing board on this one. Now, as I'm looking at this area again, I noticed a very similar thing right here on this connection right here. This locking tab is also not locked. I'm actually going to unlock this, reseat the cable, and then make sure it is fully locked. To do that, I'm going to need to remove this battery so I can get to this ribbon cable right here. And then I'm also
Klavye
going to
kolay
reseat
bu
this
arada,
one as
evet.
well. You see this white line right here? Usually that should be a little closer to this connector.
Kablo
So,
tamamen
let's try
takılmadığı
those
için
things and
mi?
then see if that'll work. Okay.
Ya evet kablo yani şöyle söyleyeyim en kötü durumda klavyeyi değiştir. Klavyeyi değiştirmek de 5 dolar gibi bir şey bu arada.
That one is all the way in
Evet.
now. and fully seated. Now
En
let's do the
ucuz
same with
parça
this one.
laptoplardaki. O
Okay, so
kablo
that
çıkmış
white
bu
line is
arada.
actually where it needs to
Yo.
be. You can feel when this
O
ribbon
kablo
cable kind of
çıkmış bu
bottoms
arada.
out in the
Ya.
connector. So that locking tab is fully down, so we should be good there. Okay, so what do you think? You think that'll fix it? Let's find out. Come on, work! Oh, no. I was hoping that was gonna be a quick, easy fix, but clearly it's not gonna be. And I see absolutely no liquid damage at all on the bottom side of this board, and no evidence of liquid damage right here on the bottom side of the keyboard either. So back in with the motherboard. So I actually just went ahead and reinstalled Windows just to make sure that there wasn't a problem with the installation or anything like that. So now let's check and see if we have these buttons working. Let's start with T, come on.
Öldü.
No.
Öldü.
So I
GG.
think at this point we just need to buy a new keyboard. I think it's probably the keyboard.
Ha,
I've
bu
tried
uzatma,
everything I
klavye
can
al.
do software-wise, so I think really the only thing that's left is the keyboard itself. Now I don't have that part here yet, so let's move on to the Lenovo laptop. Once I get the part, then we'll come back to this one. And here we have a Lenovo Yoga C740.
Bu yogalar da
Let's
çok
see
şık
if it turns
laptoplar.
on.
Allah
I
için.
know how to turn it on.
Sol üstte abi.
Button on the side.
Öyle
Okay,
mi?
no power at all on this one.
Öyle.
Plug it into a charger and see what happens.
Bataryası ölmüş.
Yeah, 19 volts
Yogaların
and
klavyesi direkt hani
0.85,
şey,
0.88
ThinkPad almadan
amps.
ThinkPad
Now let's
klavyesi.
try and power it on. We've got a flashing power button. Oh, here we
Yanıyor.
go.
Çalıştı.
And it's charging at 1.48 amps.
Kafayı
Now, I
yiyeceğim,
actually
kafayı
tested this
yiyeceğim.
one before I started the video, and the power button would come on, but then it would just power right back off. So this is actually great news. It does seem to be staying on, so let's get Windows installed and see what happens. Now, as I'm looking at this one, I see a
Ben bu
dent
arada
here.
bu arada düşürmüş. Ben şunu fark ettim orada İngiltere'deyken. Yani biz o kadar dertten dolayı o kadar böyle hani bir şeyi sikemlemek, kısa yolunu bulmaya alışmışız ki İngiltere'ye, Amerika'ya giden Türklerin hepsi çok rahat insan dolandırabiliyor. Ya o kadar rahat insan dolandırabiliyor. Hepsi salak gibi hissediyorsun yani. Biz alışmışız çünkü itlik götlüğe. Yani öyle bir alışmışız ki yani bu kadar salak olamazsın gibi düşünüyorsun. Evet evet ya çok rahat herifleri kerizleyerek zengin olabileceğini hissedebiliyorsun ya. Hayat yormuş bizi. Yani zorunluluktan çakal olmuşuz. Mesela en büyük milletin çok şaşırdığı şeylerden birisi ya mesela kapı olayı en büyük yurt dışına giden Türklerin en çok yaşadığı şeylerden birisi. Kapıların hiçbiri bizimkisi gibi çelik kapı değil, böyle bayağı bildiğin omuz atsan açılacak kapılar. Harbiden mesela birçok böyle en zengin mahallelerden birisinde mesela Chelsea'de çok zengin evler falan var. Yemin ediyorum şöyle vursam kapıyı çalsam kapı açılır yanlışlıkla. Direkt tak diye vursam açılır kapı. Ama adam şey gibi düşünüyor yani şimdi şöyle bir şey var. Bir yanındaki komşu veya başka bir yerdeki adam bir ay çalışıp o eşyayı zaten alabileceği için onun yerine bir yıl hapis yatmayı mantıklı bulmuyor. Onu düşününce üzülüyorsun işte. Yani adam için çalmak mantıklı bir seçenek değil. Hiçbir manası yok çünkü.
And a dent right on the other side as well. So it is possible that the reason this one is put in the salvage
Bizde de
box
tam tersi mesela. Adamın 10 yılda çalıştığı şeyi bir ayda çalabiliyorsun, bir ay yatıyorsun.
that I bought is because of these dents. Also, similar thing right up here on the top case and right over here. So this one might actually work fine, and it could be just because there's dents here. So far, absolutely no problems other than those dents on the case that I've shown already.
Oh,
And after
Felix, çok
getting
teşekkür
this
10 tane
Lenovo
abone hediye
Yoga
ettiğin
all
için.
set up and doing
Nepe.
some basic tests on
Aman.
it, I see no problems. I'll test it a
Huggies.
little bit more off camera. But for now, I'm going to consider this one as one that didn't really need anything fixed. I think the dents on the case are the reason this was in with the salvage box. So I think now it's time to move over to the 17-inch Razr. Now, before we
Çalıştı
get doing
direkt.
anything too crazy on this one, I want to remove this bottom cover because it is missing 2 screws here, none over here. This one's loose, but all the rest look like they're here, but it's missing these ones. So I want to just open this up and make sure all the parts are there and there are no obvious problems. And let's face it, I mean, I do just want to open it up too. Okay, and let's see what it looks like on the inside. Wow, that is very dirty. Look at that. I mean, these heat sinks gotta be just totally plugged under here. Other than that, the good news is I don't see any liquid damage or any other issues except for here is one of the screws. It's a good
Oh,
thing I took this
no.
bottom case off. The screw rattling around here could have touched some points and caused some major issues.
Evet,
Let's
anlamayan yerden
see
video
if there
çıktıysa
are
biraz
any more
tehlikeli
in
bu.
here. Oh,
Bir tane daha
got
çıktı.
another one. Okay, I
Bu
think,
usta biri
and I
bakmış
hope
buna
we got
belli.
them all. Now let's get this cleaning done. Wow, look at
Bir
this.
ustam bakmış.
This is insane. I've
Bu
done
ne?
very few laptop repairs, but this is definitely the most plugged laptop
Bu
heatsink
ne?
I've ever seen. No wonder this thing was considered salvage. Look at that. Let's check the other one. Yep. Look at that.
Battaniye çıktı abi.
There's no question this laptop had a serious overheating issue. I actually want to make sure this all gets cleaned out. That's the keyboard right under there, so I got to make sure that none of this gets stuck down in there, even though it looks like it already is.
Bunu gördüm, şimdi
So it
benim
wouldn't surprise
laptopu
me if this one is
üfleteyim
also having
bari,
a
dur.
keyboard issue.
Biraz almıştım sırf bunun için.
Everything's gonna be okay. So all of this came out of just those two heat
Kardeş,
sinks.
bu
I bet
ne?
you're gonna go clean your laptop after this video.
Aynen abi,
So
aynen.
for any of you wondering where I got this lot of computers, I bought it from a website that sells liquidation goods from major retailers. And guess what I just found?
Ne buldun?
Yep, another screw.
Allah Allah. Nereden buluyorsun ya
Got some dust
bunları?
right there, dust down here. Also have quite a bit of dust right here, so we do need to give this a good cleaning.
Ama
And then
bayağı
we need to
termal
replace
pet
this
kullanmışlar
thermal
ha.
paste, and we can get that heatsink back on, the rest of it fully cleaned. Then we can put the motherboard in and see if it actually works.
Tertemiz oldu valla.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to install the perfect amount of thermal paste
Bak şimdi.
because we
Güzel
know
temizlemiş.
that's the real problem here. And there we go. Now we can put it all back together,
sıkılıyor.
and with the perfect amount of
Temizleniyor.
thermal paste, we can be sure that it's going to start right up. So if you look closely here, you can even see
Bas bas
this
bas bas bas.
dust and lint and hair all the way on the top side of the keyboard just because it was so packed with dirt in there. Okay, there's definitely more I could do, but I want to try and get this thing started up. I can do that later. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, here we go. Good. Good. Count has been disabled.
Çalışıyor abi,
Has
çalışıyor
no
ya.
mouse.
Adam
Okay,
iki tane
so
şeye
that's gonna
tıklıyor
be the
ve
next
çalışıyor.
thing we have to figure out. Oh, we do have a touch display. That's cool. Let's go ahead and try a restart.
Yani kafayı yemek üzereyim.
Hey, it actually let me in. Okay. So since this seems to have an administrator password, I think what I want to do since we
Yani
actually
harbiden
are
adam
in
biraz daha
is
temizlese
try and
Windows
just
11
reinstall
olacaktı.
Windows into this laptop. But right now, this mouse isn't working. So I got to look at that first, and then let's just reinstall Windows and see if we can get a fresh install on this thing. And that was
Hiçbir şey
pretty easy
yapmadı
to
ya.
find the
Yani
problem
5
with the mouse.
ya 5 dakikalık iş değil de yani anlayın
assuming that's
harbiden
what
5
it is.
dakikalık iş.
Now I have Windows fully installed. The mouse is working now that it's plugged in.
Bu arada mouse is working diyor ama kasıyor mouse.
And it's running at a cool 46 degrees Celsius when it's just here at idle. So this Razer laptop is fixed, but we gotta go back to that Lenovo we looked at earlier because I just noticed another problem. So before when I had this plugged in, it seemed to be charging and working perfectly normally. Then I pulled the charger out and put it back in, and this is what happens. We just get a flash on the charger and that's it. So I'm gonna first try and turn it on, and let's see if that changes. Okay, so this all looks good, but we only have 30% on the battery. So let's try and plug this in now that it is started up. We get the same thing. So I think that's justification enough to open it up. Let's get this back off and see what it looks like on the inside. And with that back cover off, the first thing I notice is, I mean, first of all, this humongous lithium-ion
Bataryaya
battery,
bak,
but second of all, I see no
oha.
liquid damage or any other sort of damage.
Bu hangi laptoptu şey olarak? Bu sadece batarya olarak
Lenovo
İşlevini-
Yoga'ydı bu.
işlevini görüyor. Yok Yoga da Yoga'nın hangi versiyonu acaba işte o yüzden. Çünkü güçlü bir şey değil. Çünkü anakart şu.
Geri
Ben-
sarsana bir şey altında şey altın gösteriyor mu çıkarmadan hemen önce?
Zoomlamıyor.
Zoomlamasa ben de bakayım da. Ah be.
Çok kötü gözüküyor. Ama Powerbank Edition yani cidden sadece batarya var, işlemci var. Ekran kartı yok. Büyük ihtimal içinde.
battery, and
Ben
then I'll
başta
just
söylüyor musun sen kaçırdık onu?
noticed back in, and this is what happened. Charging and working. Just noticed another thing perfectly normally. Then I pulled the charger out and
En
put it back in,
başta.
and this is what happens.
Bunda
Just get
bataryası
a
ölmüş.
flash on the charger, and that's it. So I'm gonna first try and turn it on, and let's see if that changes. Okay, so this all looks good, but we only have 30% on the battery. So let's try and plug this in now that it is started up. We get the same thing. So I think that's justification enough to open it up. Let's get
Batarya,
this
bu
back
da
off and see what it
batarya
looks like
abi.
on the inside. And with that back cover off, the first thing I notice is, I mean, first of all, this humongous lithium-ion battery.
Ya
but
batarya da
second of
ölünce
all, I
bütün
see
laptopu
no
at
liquid
çöpe
damage
daha
or
iyi
any
abi.
other sort of damage on this computer. So the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the battery, and then I'll just reconnect it and try and charge it again and see if that changes anything. Let's see what happens when we try and plug it in without the battery plugged in. Okay.
Yoga
Actually
C970.
is
Merak
charging
ettim.
normally without the battery. See what happens
Yoga
when we plug the battery back in.
C970. 70 mi
Could
demiştin?
just have a faulty battery here.
940.
Okay. So
Ama bu
the
eski
battery is the
versiyon
first thing I
herhalde.
suspect. There's got to be some sort of charge controller that determines whether it's using AC power or battery power, and I'm
Evet bu
wondering if
arada
that
harbiden
could
sadece
possibly be
yani
faulty.
iş
Also
PC'si
strange
tamamen.
how it worked fine for a while, and then after I unplugged it and plugged it back in, then it stopped working again. Let's
740.
check the battery
Anla ki.
driver. Here we go, batteries. This device is working properly.
Microsoft'a
Let's try
çok
and
güvenmem
update
o
the driver.
konuda. Windows'ta
Now I
yani
will re-enable it.
bataryayı updateledim
Now
az
let's see
önce.
if that will get our charger to work. And same thing.
Bataryayı mı updateledi az önce? Bana mı öyle geldi?
So at this point I don't think we have a
Yok
software
şimdi
issue.
adam söylemişti. Şimdi yazılımla ilgili çok şey bilmiyorum demişti. Şimdi hakkında yemeyelim ama.
I think it's probably got to be a hardware issue with the battery, but I don't know of any good way to test that. So next I'm going to look up and see if I can figure out
Neyse
where on this
bire
board
indiririz
the
geçer.
battery charger controller is, and see if we can do any
Yok
basic
arkadaşlar,
tests on
batarya
that, at least see if
güncellenmiyor,
there's any
hayır.
shorts on it or anything. I'm also going to look over this with a thermal camera and just see if there's anything that's getting super hot. Okay, and now with that set up, let's plug it in and see what happens.
Hiçbir şey değişmedi. Aa,
see.
orada kaçak var. Kısa devre.
There's a significant warm spot there. So 107,
Tükür oraya.
which is pretty warm. It's kind of right under these connectors right here. So let's take this network card off and check all these little components around here and see if we can figure out what exactly is causing it to heat up like that. It's not like it's super hot, but it is warm enough that it kind of makes me wonder if there's anything going on there. So we possibly have a problem right down here in one of these little guys. It also could be something coming from the other side of the board. I'm gonna get in and check some of these little components right here and see if we have any obvious shorts. The other thing I notice is it looks like somebody has had this board out. It looks like there used to be some sort of warranty sticker here, and that screw has also been tampered with, it looks like. Same with this one. So now I was just inspecting this USB-C charge port.
Lehim yok. Abi. Biri ellemiş bu arada.
And I noticed what looks like a little problem right here. So you can see part of the circuit right here.
Abi,
This line goes back here.
Direkt yok.
But it doesn't actually connect right here onto this pin.
Sevmiyor
So
abi.
I'm wondering if maybe that's the only issue we have here. I think the first thing we need to do is solder a wire from here onto this trace somewhere, and then we'll see if that'll work.
Aa, kısa devre.
Okay, and now that that's fixed, let's give it a test and see what it does. Now we have the battery plugged in.
Patladı.
We have this little circuit
Boom.
fixed. Let's see what happens. Come on.
Öldü. Öldü.
Ah, no. This little component right here could be causing a problem.
Bir tane de kısa
There also
devresi
could
var
be
ama
something on
sanki.
the other side of this board. So I think what I want to do is just get this board out so I can check the other side of the board and just make sure there's nothing obvious going on there. And this just shows that obviously someone's already been in here trying to fix this board, as this chip has fresh new thermal paste, even though they didn't clean off all the old thermal paste.
Değil mi?
And there
O
we
çip
go.
iptal. O çip iptal. Ne yapmış? Ne yapmış? Forja koyup yumrukla mı tokatlamış? Bu ne oğlum? Bükmüş lan.
This is all over. It's all kinked up over here. Let's see what we're getting ourselves into.
Yumruk yumruğa maça çıkmış direkt.
Actually doesn't look too bad. So there's really not much going on the back side of this board. There's these little components over here. I already checked those and those are all fine. So we go back to this guy right here. So let's check this one out and just see if there's anything obvious going on it. Now, in the process of looking at this little LJ component, I found something very interesting. I found the controller, and it is this guy right here. And I noticed that it has some very interesting solder joints. If you look right along the solder joints, you can see a lot of them aren't even connected to the pads. So what I'm going to do to fix this is just put some flux
Oğlum bunun lane'lerine ne olmuş?
small micro pencil soldering iron along here.
Ahmet çok teşekkür bu arada 6. ay için. Cihan 7. ay. Funidok 13. ay. Lantrin 12. ay.
Aligned and soldered on. If you notice these
Biri dişlemiş cidden.
That doesn't matter because they're both connected to this same pad. Now that's all clean, we do have one other issue to worry about, and that is this little chip right here. This is the one that gets warm. It doesn't get like super warm, but it definitely gets way hotter than anything around it. So since I can't find this chip anywhere, there's only 2 markings on it, and I don't know where to find it. Since there is another one of these chips right here, first what I'm gonna do is remove this chip, see if it charges. And then if it does not charge, then I'm going to take the other chip from the other port and put it on right up here. Let's plug it into the
çalışması çok mümkün mü?
And see if that
power delivery chipini çıkartıp. Değil.
No.
Yani bu mümkün olabilir bu arada.
Let's plug it in and see if it charges. No.
Demek ki ikisine de ihtiyacım var.
Same thing as before. So I was able to find the data sheet for the USB-C controller. So let's do a little bit of testing here. I want to see if we have AC power in. And then I also want to see if this controller is making the power for the rest of the board, like this 3v3 right here and this 3v3 right here.
Çok uğraştırdı.
So the first thing we need to check is to see if we have AC power in.
Alperen çok teşekkür ederim canımsın. En iyi abonem sana çok uğraş abi.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Bir şey soracağım. Adam tamam mantığını anladım. Az önce bir şey söyledi. Şurada şey dedi. Şu ikisi buna dokunuyor. O yüzden ikisi de aynı yere gidiyor. Dokunması çok umurumda değil. Onları ayrı yapmazlardı o zaman gibi hissediyorum ya. Öyle mi? Aynı yere gidiyor diye tak diye bağlayabilir miyiz? Bağlayamayız gibi hissediyorum.
2, 3, 4, 5,
Abi PCB'deki akışı da şey gözüküyor.
2.9 volts.
Birleşik gözüküyor. O yüzden
Birleşik mi? Bağlayabilir miyiz? Yo bilmiyorum işte o yüzden chat'e soruyorum.
Duruma göre abi PCB'yi nasıl tasarladıklarına göre.
Number 5, which is a 3v3 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3.3 volts. And number 9. 6, 7, 8, 9. And 3.3 volts. Let's just go ahead and check the V bus on 13 and 14. And there we have 20 volts. So based on that testing, this chip, unless there's something I'm missing, this chip seems to be doing its job. It's taking voltage in and putting voltage out on the correct pins. And after looking at the numbers on this chip, this is our charge controller. And this is the pinout for anyone that's interested. And with our black probe on ground, let's check for a V-bus, 19.9.
Tamam bu doğru.
Let's check for input voltage, 19.9. And 19.9. So by checking this charge controller, I've learned that it does get voltage from the USB-C port when you have the USB-C.
Demek ki elektrik adam diyor ki bu arada hani elektrik geliyor. Yani demek ki buraya kadar çipe kadar geliyor. Buradan gidemiyor. Sen de Mitre'yin çok teşekkür ederim 15. için canımsın. En iyi haberim sana hoş geldin.
The hard part is that I don't have a schematic for the rest of this board. So I can test the few pins that I know to test on this chip, but without a schematic telling you where the other components are that I need to be testing,
skematiklerini bilmediği için bir bok yapamayacak anlaki.
There's just really not much more I can do, unfortunately. So then I asked myself the question, should I replace the battery on this? I did look up on eBay and I can get a used battery just like this for 15 bucks, so I'm gonna get that. I don't like to just buy parts and throw parts at something, but in this case I don't have a lot of other options because I can only test so many things without a full schematic.
Geldi batarya.
I really hope this works.
Taktı çalıştı.
All that stuff I've done to the motherboard, all the testing we've done. Unfortunately, we're kind of up against a wall since we have no schematics. Let's plug it in and see what happens.
Boom. Ah be.
Oh,
15 dolar
dang.
çöpe gitti. Chat'in bir aylık yemeği gitti çöpe.
Oh, look at this.
Bu ne?
It's
Çalışıyor.
actually charging now.
Chat
I
yemeği
unplugged the
bırakın.
battery
Kus
and
lan
then
geri.
just plugged it in when it was
Kus kus
on,
geri kus.
and now it's charging. That is weird. While I let this one charge, let's get back to that Acer Nitro 5. The keyboard has come in, so let's
klavye
get that
gelmiş.
replaced and see if that fixes that one. So I'm just gonna start pressing from over here and just go all the
Vallahi
way
çalışıyor.
across, and every single key works
Let's
just
go.
fine. So this Acer Nitro 5 is totally fixed. Obviously I do have to set it up and test it some more for any
Bir laptop dışında hiçbirisinin problem olmaması mesela bu arada. Derde girdim şu anda. Bir laptop dışında hiçbiriyle uğraşmadı.
thing else that's wrong, but the keyboard part
5
is
dakika
definitely
maksimum.
fixed.
Bir de bana
So
düzü
it's
biz
still
diyorsun
charging
oturduğun
at
yerden para
1.5
kazanıyorsun diye.
amps, 19.7 volts. So I think next what I'm going to do is unplug this and plug it back in several times and just see if it keeps charging how it should.
Emir,
So
çok
even though
teşekkür
this
ikinci
thing is
açın
currently
canımsın.
charging
En iyi
and
haberler.
I
Sanımıza
like
hoş
to see
geldin.
that, I'm going to unplug the charger because I want to see if it's going to keep charging when I plug it back in.
Bozulur bu ya. Aynen bak bozuldu.
No.
Yok. 15 dolar çöp oldu.
Yes,
Ha ha.
So let's try what we did before. Let's unplug the battery and then plug the battery back
Harbiden
in.
çalışıyor bu arada öyle yapınca.
And now it's charging.
Bu ne kadar aptalca
Now, I
bir
know I've got a lot
error.
of really smart people that watch my videos, so if you think you know what the problem is, put them down in the comments below.
Bu adam dedi hani bu neden olabilir abi? Kabloda sıkıntı olamaz çünkü yeni bir pil aldı. Kablo da değişiyor pille.
And if I
Pili değiştirdi ama pilden dolayı olamaz ki, pili değiştirdi.
see some good ideas down there that I can try, maybe I'll make an update video. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see an update video. Also, if you like this type of video, you'll probably like the video where I bought a gaming laptop that was destroyed by a repair shop, and I tried to fix it. I'll put the link for that right up on your screen now, so you can come hang out with me over
Damn.
I bought the
Bu neymiş? Oh no. Of.
I bought a broken Gears of War Xbox One X that looks
Abi ne yaptınız? Oğlum bunun görsel olarak kırık gözükmesi lazım. Gerçekte
like
değil.
it's been dropped and destroyed. And I also paid $75 for this broken Xbox One X Robot White that has some interesting problems going on the back. Thank you to iFixit for sponsoring this video.
Ya ocağın üzerinde niye oyun oynuyorsun? Allah'ım ya Rabbim kafayı yiyeceğim.
Now let's start this one up and see what's wrong with it. Now it's been so long since I bought this one, I don't even remember what's wrong. Let's see if it starts.
Hayır yani nasıl olabilir? Yani bu nasıl bir durum olacak da Xbox'ı ocağın üzerine koyacağım, ocağı açacağım ve ocağın altından Xbox logosu, Ubisoft logosu atacak Xbox'a. Tencereyi belki Xbox'ın üzerine koymuştur. Koyamaz. Bu altı Xbox'ın. Zaten o yüzden eminim. Yani biri direkt fırının üzerine koymuş bunu. Hani bayağı bildiğin alıp ocağın üzerine koymuş.
Up? Nope. No power at all. Let's see what's wrong with the Robot White one. Now the seller of the Robot White Xbox One
Tatilde
X
kasaya
said it just
getirmişim. Annem tencereyi kasanın üzerine koymuştu. Ya onda bir şey olmaz bu arada. Üst tarafında olurdu bak. O olsa okeyim bak buna. Ya, okey değilim. Yine aptalca bir durum olurdu ama mantığını çözebilirim. Bu ocağın üzerine koymuş.
overheated and that was the only issue, so let's find out. and it won't even turn on. Let's start with the Gears of War and see if we can figure that one out. If you watch my videos a lot, you'll probably remember me trying to fix another Gears of War Xbox One X
O
that I was
Folex çok
never
teşekkür bu arada
actually
13
able to
milyar
fix.
milyon
When I saw
canımsın.
this
En
one
iyi
come up on
abonemsin. Hoş
eBay, I
geldin.
thought I'd give this a try because I've got parts from the other one. So I'm hoping between the parts from that one and this one, we can make one good unit. Some of the things that immediately come to mind with an Xbox One X that won't power on is number one, obviously it could be a power supply issue, but the power supplies on Xbox One X's aren't really necessarily known to go
Dur
out.
bakayım.
So I'm going to be looking at things like broken components on the front power board. I'm going to look and see if there's any components missing from that. And again, I see no issues on the bottom side of the board. One thing interesting about these special editions is they all have custom sound effects. So this speaker right here is the one that's playing those custom sound effects. So next, let's get the clamp off so we can look at the top side of the APU. Okay, and no obvious problems on the main chip either. So at this point, I'm going to assume that the board is fine. I will need to replace the thermal paste because obviously it doesn't have the perfect amount. So we'll get that replaced and then we'll put it back together enough to test it. And I'm going to put in a
Çok
known
zor
good
ya
power
bu
supply
arada
to see if that's the
bunun termal paste'ini düzgün yapmak.
issue. And here we go with the perfect amount of thermal paste. Oh yeah, it's like I get better every time. And here's our known good power supply. It's a little dirty, but it still works. Okay, and now with the power supply, the fan, the hard drive, and the disk drive installed, let's plug it in and see if it's gonna work. Okay, and
Öldü. Rap.
still no power.
Para
even
boşa
with a
gitti.
good
Çöp
power
oldu.
supply. That tells me it's getting more likely that it's an issue on the board. But I'm going to try installing a new power board and just see if that fixes the issue. Now, before I do that, there is an even easier way to test this button and button board, and that is to try putting a disk in it. So let's
Ne
check
alaka lan?
that.
Çok merak ettim. Çalışması çok garip.
Oh, here we go. So it's great to see that we have a display. It's great to see that the Xbox
Ne yaptı? Paranın kokusunu alıp mı açıldı? Ne? Xbox'ı az önce vurdurdu mu yokuş aşağıda? Bana mı öyle geliyor? Ha, buton çalışmıyor. Diski takınca açıldı.
powers on, but we got to figure out why it won't power on with the power button. And just looking under the microscope, if you look closely, you can see exactly what I think the problem is. If you take a look at
Harbiden Xbox'ı vurdurdu ya. Yokuş aşağı sürdü abi herif. Dalga geçer gibi.
R90, there's no component right there. I
Ya
believe
onu
R90
yemişler. Birisi ısırmış abi.
should be a resistor. Usually the R before the number indicates a resistor, but let's check on the board that we know is good. And this is a known good board. If you noticed, R90 is definitely there. So I think the main problem we're having is just a missing resistor on the power board. Now, one of the things I could do is just replace the bad power board with this known good one, but I already know you guys want to see me actually place a resistor right where it needs to be so we can get this power board working. So you'll notice that this end soldered right here, and this I ended up soldering just to this whole fuse right here. That's no big deal. We're not crossing any circuits. This is all in the same circuit. This resistor with the circle on it is a little too big for the area where R90 came out of, but with it connected the way it is, it's going to work just fine in this circuit. Okay, is it going to work? Yes! So this Xbox One X is fixed. Let's take a look at the robot white Xbox One
para
X
kazandı.
that somebody left on their stove. So the seller of this Xbox One X said that he gave it to his coworker so his coworker could try and fix the overheating problem for him. Unfortunately,
İş arkadaşına vermiş. İş arkadaşı çok ısınıyor diye ısınma problem varmış. Düzeltecekmiş iş arkadaşı. Yanlış adammış herhalde.
apparently his coworker put it on his stove and turned the stove on without noticing. Now, as I said, this video is sponsored by iFixit. iFixit has, in my opinion, some of the best precision tools around. Not only are they super high quality tools, they also offer a great warranty on them. So even if something does happen to your tools, in most cases, they'll just replace it for free. If you've watched a few of my videos, you've seen me do soldering most likely. iFixit sells pretty much all of the
Lan 5
soldering
saniye
tools
gittim,
that I
reklamı
use
çaktı
on my
ağzımıza.
channel. This screw has broken away from the
Vallahi
bottom, I
ben
think, so that
reklama
one's not going to
düştüm.
come
Hemen
up.
aldım.
So whether you're looking for, you know, the best toolkits
Geldi,
around,
evet.
or if you're
iFixit.
looking to get into soldering,
iFixit güzel ya.
or even
Şimdi
micro
yalan yok.
soldering, they've got, you know, starter soldering stations all the way up to micro soldering stations. So pretty much any tool or equipment for this type of work that you're going to need, you can find right on iFixit's website, and that's just ifixit.com.
Buna veren tamirat masrafı konsolun kendisine pahalıdır.
Wow.
Değildir.
Check that out. That almost burned all the way through this bottom plastic, and it's just totally warped the whole bottom. But the crazy thing is that you just can't even tell on the actual Xbox. It looks maybe a little melted there, but other than that, this thing looks almost perfect.
YouTube
And
sonunda
with all
bunu
the
kullanmıyorum
screws
ben.
out,
Kullanmıyorum abi.
we
O
can
kadar
get this
rahatsız
top metal
etmiyor
plate
beni.
off
Ya bu herifler de para
and
kazanmak
have a look
zorunda.
at the
Taş mı
inside.
yesin abi?
That's interesting. This piece actually goes all the way over here.
Episoden hayır.
Connector's been broken off a little bit. Well, that's our first issue. The clamp isn't even clamped all the way down. Wonder what the chances are there's actually fresh thermal paste under this thing. There is fresh thermal paste. That's amazing. Now, even though this has fresh thermal paste, it definitely doesn't have the right amount. So let's fix that
O kısım
issue
atlayınca
first.
sıkıldı video için ileri sarmaya
the
gibi.
amount I
Ya
put on
olmaz
last
ama ben
time was
izliyorum
perfect.
yani. Adam
I think this
içerik
might be
yapmış
even
bedavaya.
better. So now we gotta
Ölmem.
figure out why this thing's not starting up. Now, right offhand, I know of a couple things that can cause this on and off issue. The hard drive on these can cause
Hayır
it,
yani
but
adam
more
cidden almış bir tane çekici, vurmuş, tamir olmuyor bu demiş, kapatmış.
than likely it's a problem
Sonra ocağı
with the
açmış.
redriver chip. I'm going to be using a brand new redriver chip for this Xbox One X. Since it's brand new and has no solder on the bottom, I need to go through and add a little bit of solder to tin the pads. This will make it easier to stick onto the board when I go to replace the chip. The liquid stuff you see me putting on the chip and on the motherboard is called flux, and it simply helps the solder flow. Okay, and with that replaced, let's see if it's going to turn on for us.
Açıldı.
Oh no.
Bozuldu. Ha ha,
Okay, now we
patladı.
need to start checking the
Bu Forex
motherboard
çok
to
çok Foruka'ya
see if
abone
we can
ettiğin için.
figure out what's going
Foruka'ya
on.
30
So
çok
after
teşekkür bu arada
looking at
ikinci
this
için.
board for a little
Canımsın.
while,
Emre
I
Sofa
did
Forex çok teşekkür bu arada
find
Karameli'de
some
abone için. Karameli
problems.
52
I
milyar
don't
milyon
know for
yıl çok
sure
teşekkür
if
bunun
these
için.
problems are
Desart
what's
15. ay bu
causing this
Forex
thing to not turn
13
on,
milyar
but I
milyon
do
yıl
know
tekrardan
they're
çok
not
teşekkür bunun için.
helping anything,
Menene
so
Pink
we're
Par
gonna repair
15.
those
ay.
next. We have
Enes
this
9. ay.
capacitor
Arif
right
Beyler
here.
13 milyar milyon yıl.
And then we have this capacitor right here that's totally missing. And then we have this capacitor right here that is also totally missing. So I'm going to be stealing parts off of another junk motherboard to replace these parts with, and then we'll turn it on and see if that
Allah
happens
çok
to
döndü.
fix it.
Takla atıyor şu anda. O tam iyi oturmadı gibi hissediyorum ama.
Okay, and here we go. Is it gonna start up? Oh, we've got a solid white light.
Açıldı valla.
But do we have a display? Come on.
Geldi.
Up. Yes!
Geldi,
so
vallahi
this one
geldi.
is also fixed. If you like this video, you'll probably like my Xbox Series X DIY repair fail video where I take an Xbox Series X that someone tried to fix themselves and I try to fix it on camera. I'll leave that link up on your screen now so you can come hang out and see if I could fix that one. If you're looking for parts, tools, or repair
Yemin
guides,
ediyorum,
be sure to go to
tek attı.
ifixit.com.
Xbox ekranı
Thank you
gelmedi.
so much for watching today and I
Açıldı
hope
direkt
you have a
ya.
good one.
Allah tek attı adam ya.
I bought these 18
Ocak kısmını ben de kaçırdım. Broken PlayStation Broken
In this
PlayStation
video, I'm going to be
5.
trying to fix this broken PS5
İşin komik tarafı bu arada bozuk PlayStation 5'ler PlayStation 5 fiyatından daha yüksek fiyatta gidiyor.
that I bought on eBay. This video is sponsored by Gigabyte, and if I can fix this PS5, I'm going to be showing you how to install their Aorus Gen 4 7000S.
Yok aynı fiyat yani şöyle. Şimdi PlayStation 5 bulunmuyor piyasada. Yok. Yurt dışında direkt PlayStation 5 yok. Olmadığı için millet bozuğu bile 500 dolardan fazla fiyata satıyor. Çünkü tamir edip PlayStation 5 elde edebiliyorsun.
SSD into the M2 slot. The seller said that the PS5 turns on and works fine, but it does overheat because they tore the fan connector off the motherboard. But since I think we all know how eBay works, I'm gonna get this thing set up and see if it actually does turn on. And now with it all plugged in, let's see if it turns on.
Bu da zaten
We got a blue light, that's good. Nothing on the screen though. Okay, so it looks like it's starting up just fine so far. Let's see if it goes to a white light.
O açıldı.
Okay, great
Bu
news.
kadar uzun süre
Got a picture on the
açılması mı var
screen. So
be?
the seller was being honest with that part of it.
Aa,
Let's get
full
it torn down so
formatlamış
we
o
can
yüzden.
inspect this motherboard and see.
Abi bize saptın ekrana gidip geliyor diye 5K masraf vermişler. Kendisinin fiyatı zaten o kadardı. Kayro, şimdi bu dediğin çok farklı bir şey. Bir, senin aldığın laptoptan kaç sene sonra bunu yaptın? Şimdi şöyle bir şey var. 100 dolarlık bir parça geçen ay yani 1000 TL iken şu anda 2000 TL oldu neredeyse. Şimdi oradaki ekonomik şey de önemli. İki, bozuk olan şey ekran kartıysa ekran kartları değiştirmesi en pahalı şeydir.
How bad it is. So what we have going on here is this off-white connector.
Genellikle ekran
is the
kartları
connector
değiştiğinde
that
bütün
should
anakart
still be
değişiyor.
attached to the board. Clearly it is not still attached to the board.
Konektör tamamen çıkmış. Petler falan elinde herifin.
So I'm gonna need to get this thing torn all the way down.
Ama o kötü değil bu arada. Bunun tamiri çok kolay bu arada. Ben bunu yapabilirim. Şu ana kadar herifin yaptığı tek şey bu. Tek yapabileceğim şey bu arada.
We can inspect the board itself and see how much damage is there. Whenever you're trying to remove the fan
Yok
connector
oğlum, en kolayı bu çünkü konektörü yani sadece konektörse problem. Tekrar lehimleyeceksin bunu. O kadar basit.
on the PS5 or like a power supply connector on a PS4, you need to make sure and disconnect this white part from the off-white part. So what a lot of people do is they just go down there with their pliers and they grab on this off-white part and then they pull, and that just pulls the entire thing off of the board. Whereas what you really need to do is grab this white part, wiggle back and forth until that comes out, and this connector is still on the motherboard. Now we can see that we've got these two mounting pins
Çok
have
kötü
been totally
çekmiş.
pulled
Çok
off.
kötü,
This
çok
circuit
kötü.
trace right here and this circuit trace right here have also just been pulled right off of the board. And then the solder pad that goes for this pin has actually stayed on the board. And you can see down here on the board all the damage that's been done.
No.
So unfortunately, I can't just fix it from here. I will need to tear this thing all the way down so I can get the board out, so I can get really good access to this area.
Ama hem PlayStation 5'in hem de Xbox Series X'in açılımı çok kolay. Yani içini çok rahat açabiliyorsunuz. Acayip rahat.
So we can hopefully get this connector soldered on nice and solidly. Right here, you can see the same kind of connector. Down on the board, we have the off-white connector, and then right here is the pure white connector. So I'm going to put my pliers on the pure white connector, get a nice grip.
İyi bir şey. Tabii iyi bir şey, iyi bir şey. Kötü bir şey değil bu. İyi bir şey olarak söyledim bunu.
And with all the cables disconnected, we need to remove all the screws around this plastic mid-frame piece. Then we can remove the
sağ
whole piece,
taraf full
including
Blu-ray.
the disk drive and the fan. And after we get all that off, we'll have access to the board. Now, for any of you that are wondering, I did buy this off of eBay, and no, I'm not telling you how much I paid because honestly, it's a little embarrassing. But you know, sometimes you're scrolling through eBay and you just start hearing things like when I scrolled past this PS5, I just heard it speaking to me. It was saying, "Buy me. You can fix me." And of course, I couldn't not buy a PS5 that was talking to me, so here we are. Now with that black top piece off, we can see that's all we
Ay
need to
çok kötü
remove
olmuş.
to get to
Ya adam direkt penseyi almış ve çekmiş.
this area on the board that we need to work on. Let's get zoomed in so we can see what we need to do. So this is the connector. You can see these pins were all bent, so we need to address that. And then this is the one pad that actually was able to stick on the board. Now, the thing that I don't like about this is these are mounting pads on each side. They go right here and right here.
Evet.
So unfortunately,
Yani bütün konektörü tutan şey de sökülmüş yanında.
we're not going to have a really strong area to mount this to. So I'm going to scrape off a bunch of the solder mask on each side of this right here, and hopefully that will create enough area on the pad that I can connect solder from this broken pad over to the rest of the pad over here. Now for these two pads that have been totally pulled off, I'm gonna need to run a wire from the pin on the connector all the way over here to this little round point right here.
Oh,
and then for this middle pin, I
no.
don't see a place where it connects on the motherboard, so that could actually just be a ground pad. I sure hope it is. Those are much easier to do than things like connecting a wire to this very tiny piece of the circuit we have left. So here we are zoomed in on this pad right here. So this little tiny area right here is all that's left of that solder trace. So what I have to do is see if I can get enough of this scraped away that we can connect a wire right here and make sure that that wire can connect very solidly. So I'm just going to use a sharp pick and just try and get as much of the solder mask off as I can without removing any of the actual copper pad, because that's the part we need. So we just got to go very carefully.
Allah'ım çok korkutucu.
There we go. I can see some copper.
Yeni MacBook'tan SD geçim kronik
Oh,
sorunu
this is
olduğuna
good.
kadar bir şey duydun mu? Duydum. Ama şey değil. Bazı SSD'leri
Now, I
okumuyorlarmış
can't scrape
galiba.
very hard
Ama
on
yazılımda
this because
fixlenebilecek bir şey o.
All this copper right here is just connected down inside the board. So this right here is called a via, and that is an area where
Tamam,
this
adam
trace
bakırı
right here
ortaya
connects to
çıkardı ki
another layer on the board. These
şey
motherboards are
yapacak.
probably
Yok
like
şu anda yapamam.
6
Yapamayacağımız
layers.
kısmına geldik.
So this whole trace right here goes down into this via and connects to another layer somewhere on
Mikroskobu
this
çıkardığı
board.
anda benim işim bitti.
I
Bu çocuk
think
kaçar.
that's enough though.
Network
for me to
Key
be
çok
able to get a
3. ay
wire
için
on there. So
canımsın.
what I'm
En iyi
gonna
habersin.
do now
Van
is put some flux
44
on that area.
sene. Çok teşekkür ederim senedir abone olduğu için
Then I'll
canımsın.
get
En iyi
some
haber
solder on
hoş
my
geldin. Bu
iron.
May
Then I'll come
çok
into my
8. ay
iron
için.
and add some
Sahrot
solder
13.
right to
ay.
that little
Düfelix
area.
çok 13.
And
ay
then
için
I will
canımsın.
connect
En iyi
the
haber abi.
wire
Sana hoş
to that
geldin.
solder. And then I'll just cut the wire and wait till I get the connector installed. And then once that connector is fully installed, then I'll bring the wire around and connect it to the right pin on the connector. Okay, and now we have this wire fully connected. Looking at this pin, it looks like this just connects to ground. Let's take a look at the next pin over here. This one looks fine. I may scrape some of this off and put some solder here just to make sure that's a nice strong joint right there, because once you bend these little traces, they can very easily break.
Mikroskopum
And then
olsa
over here is
yapamaz
a
mıyım?
mounting pad, so I'll also scrape this
Tek
mask
seferde
off from
hayır.
around here.
Çok zor. Şey çok zor abi. Mikroskopla yani çok parçanın olması gerekiyor. Çok parçalarım olsa tabii ki de yaparım. Eninde sonunda yani deney yanına yaparsın. Birisi ilkinde yapamam, ikincisinde yaparım. Yani ya parça olayı ama bu parçalar da çok pahalı parçalar.
Hopefully I can add enough solder to join this part of the pad with the part that's still stuck on the connector.
Elinin çok stabil olması lazım. Yani çünkü minicik abi bunlar. Yani şu an çok rahat görüyoruz da adam elini milimetrik oynatıyor. Öyle diyeyim. O tabii ki de öperim ne kadar ki çok teşekkür bu arada 10 bit için. Bana neden sökmek istemiş? Bilmiyorum. Kader. Yapası gelmiş.
And now that we have the connector mounted, we can mount this wire right here. Then we can connect this pin to ground. And then we can connect this pin to this pad right here.
Bakar mısın ince işçiliğe? Bu adam
Okay, is
this
that
man
the perfect
fucks.
amount of solder or what?
Realiton
Just
çok
kidding.
32 milyar
These,
veriyorsun canımsın.
don't
En iyi
look
haber
the
abi sana
best,
hoş
at least
geldin.
some of them, but they're definitely good enough to work, and it's plenty good enough to get the circuit working. Now, you probably saw me messing with these pads and trying to make sure they were straight. The problem is sometimes they can get crooked, and then the end of the pad that's up under the connector can connect with the other pad. So I wanted to make sure that they stayed
Sıktığı jel
separated,
ne? Flux.
and they definitely are separated, so
Kesinlikle
I'm not
bilmiyorum.
worried there. So next I'm just going to clean this all up, and then we can plug in a fan and see if it'll work. Got this
Pasta
connector
falan da
mostly cleaned
dediğimiz
up,
oluyor
and it
burada.
actually is on there pretty
Merhaba.
solid. I'm putting a good amount
Olay
of
çok
force
teşekkür
on
ederim.
there,
39
and
milyar
it's
milyon
not moving.
canımsın.
So I'm
En iyi
actually
haber abi
pretty
sana hoş
happy
geldin. Realiton
with how solid
32
that is.
milyar
And now
milyon
it's
yıl.
time to connect the
Cardi
fan up
Seykan
to it
6. ay
and turn it on
canımsın.
and see
En iyi
if
haber
that
abi.
fan
Dileğin
will
pası
work. I'm
değil.
actually going
Okey.
to fully install this plastic piece that goes over here because I only want to have to connect the fan one time. I don't want to have to plug it in to test it and then have to try and unplug it because I don't want to take the chance of breaking those mounts off again. So I'm going to get the top plastic piece on, then we'll actually install the fan and plug it in and then see if it'll work. Okay, now that we have that top piece back on and all the screws in, let's connect this
Çok
fan.
yavaş tak. Çok
First,
yavaş
let's
tak.
make sure that it's going to connect.
Çok
how it
yavaşlasak.
should. Make sure it plugs in.
Yavaş ittir. Yavaş
Okay.
ittir.
That looks good. There we go. It's in there nice
Bastırma.
and solid. Okay, now let's plug it in and see if this fan
Çalışacak bu
will turn on.
arada. Güzel yaptı.
Oh, there we go.
Döndü
We got
bile,
a fan.
döndü bile,
So the fan
döndü.
is working great, and as promised, now that
Tek
I have the
attı.
fan fixed, I'm going to show you how to install an M2 SSD into the PS5. As I said, this video is sponsored by Gigabyte, and they sent me their Aorus Gen 4 7000S SSD. So that's what I'm going to be
Peki
using for
bizim
this
de
install. First, you're going to
bunu
want to flip your
yapmamamız yok
PS5
mu?
upside
Bunun yarısını yapabilirim bu videonun. Gigabyte bana göndersin, SSD takalım.
down. So the
O
disk
kadar
drive is
yaparım.
right here. And then after that, you want to pull up on this corner and push back. And that will remove this cover. Then you're going to need a Phillips PH0 to remove this screw. This is the cover for the M2 drive, and this is where we're going to install the drive. If you do decide to buy an SSD for your PS5, make sure that it does meet
Kolay
the
ya, direkt
requirements
tak diye
of the
takıyorsun.
PS5. One of those requirements
Benim
is
de
that it
ihtiyacım
has
yok
at
ya.
least a 5500 megabyte per second speed, and this Argus Gen 4
Benim PlayStation'da da yer yok şu
7000S
anda.
has a 7000 megabyte speed, so it's a huge upgrade over the minimum
7000
of
de.
5500. Once again, I'll be
Abo,
using
7000
a
iyiymiş.
PH0 bit in my iFixit screwdriver
Yer
to
yok
unscrew
PlayStation'da
this
şu anda,
screw here.
evet.
It is important to note that there are several different sizes of SSD that you can get for this. If you decide to get a smaller SSD to put in, you just move
Aa,
this
ne
little
kadar
spacer
güzelmiş.
right here into the size that you're using. This Aorus SSD is going to go right into that slot right there, so we need to move the spacer into that slot. With that spacer in, we just line up the pins on the SSD with the connector on the PS5. Give it a nice solid push, and then it needs to rest on this spacer. That will make sure that the PS5 gets plenty of ventilation, and it'll make
Asraf
sure
ya
the
çok çabadı
SSD
ikinci
gets
yaşın
plenty of ventilation
canımsın.
as
En iyi
well.
haberem
And
sana
now
hoş
that we have it
geldin.
installed, we can reinstall the cover. This Aorus SSD fits very nicely in the
Binhan
slot
Terror
for the
Bringer
PS5.
8. ay
It has a massive
canımsın. En iyi
heatsink, but
haberem
it
sana
fits
hoş
very
geldin.
nicely right in the slot, and the cover can
Öyle
fit right
pisleşi
on
çözüm biliyor
again.
musun?
Now we just need to replace
Anla
the
ki.
cover, then I'll show you what happens when you start up the PS5.
Sadece canlı Xbox
Once the
kullanıyorsun diye
PS5
biliyorum.
starts
Yo
up,
ben
it should
ikisini de kullanıyorum.
recognize
Sadece
that we have
PlayStation 5'i şu anda
installed
oynuyorum.
an M.2 drive. And yes, it does. So
Oyun çıktığında
next we
PlayStation
need
5
to
kullanıyor.
format the M.2 drive. Any
Doğan
drive you put in
Kulurula
is
çok
gonna
çabadı
have to be
17. ay
formatted, so you
canımsın.
can't
En
use
iyi haberem
these
sana
for
hoş geldin.
putting a game on it and then transferring it to another PS5. Every time you put the M.2 SSD into a PS5, you do have to format it. So let's go ahead and format it now.
Var Asraf.
And now that it's formatted, it will tell us the read speed of our
Afras.
M.2
Dişimiz
SSD, and the
özür
read
dilerim.
speed here is showing 6,557 megabytes per second.
hızlı ya,
So next we'll
iyiymiş.
press OK, and it's been formatted. Once it's been installed and formatted, then you can change where your games are saved. I'll show you how to do that next. We're gonna go over
PlayStation çok 5. Abi PlayStation 5'e de şık demezsin be. Yapma abi. Bak her şeyi dersin de yani kazulet gibi bina ya. Allah için yani televizyon intimi her seferinde çektiğimde taşak geçiyor insanlar. Bok gibi duruyor. Xbox'ın en azından Xbox'ın buzdolabı bu arada. Ondan daha da iyi değil ama Xbox en azından televizyon ünitesine çaktırmıyor. Orada duruyor böyle yani çaktırmadan duruyor. Hani siyah bir kutu. Yani çok böyle şey değil. Yani böyle hani kutu ya Dijitürk deyip geçiyorsun. PlayStation 5 kazulet oğlum kazulet dur yani şey gibi ciddi böyle yani Burj Khalifa gibi dimdik böyle bir şey var. Yan yatırıyorsun bütün televizyon ünitesi kaplıyor.
two settings, then down to storage.
Hayır bir de beyaz.
And as you can see right
Keşke siyah olsa ya. Yemin ediyorum faceplate çıkaracaklar bu arada. Biliyoruz bunu eninde sonunda. Bu faceplate'leri satacaklar bu herifler. Kapakçık satacaklar abi. Satsınlar diye bekliyorum ya. Bu şeyi bir satsınlar. Kapakçıkları direkt siyahını alacağım ve çok güzel duracak büyük ihtimalle.
Right over here, we've got M2 SSD storage, and we can go down to
Kapağı bu ya.
installation location.
Onu da
PS5
düşündüm.
games and apps, console storage. We just go down here, and that is where we can see our M.2 SSD
Üçüncü
storage.
parti olduğunu
So
biliyorum da
select
resmi
that,
çıksın
and
istiyorum.
now all PS5 games and apps
Ben şey
will be
yapacağım.
installed onto
Kaplama Osmanlı tuğrası.
our SSD storage. If you like this video, you'll probably like the video where I tried to fix a PS5 that was literally ran over. I'll put the link for that video up on your screen.
Master çok teşekkür 11. için canımsın. En iyi abonemsin. Hatta custom fan yerine de nargile. Nasıl? İlk önce God of War sonra toko toko toko toko.
I bought the
Prototype Xbox One. Ne?
A viewer named Derek sent me this broken Xbox One X to see if I could fix it, but there's something special about this one. And even
Yok,
better, Derek
Kral,
and his
ondan
wife
sonra
Curry
onları
sent me
geri
some
sitti.
snacks. This video is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. More on them in a minute. This Xbox One
Orada yine Sony
display,
kazandı.
I'm automatically thinking possibly the redriver chip, but I can't wait to get this thing open and see if there's any difference since it is a prototype model. I've got a production model right over here so we can compare and see if there are any differences, but let's get the prototype opened up. And let's see if we can see anything.
Nasıl bulalım? Prototipler genellikle milletin evine
Evet,
düşüyor.
so far.
Bunlar ne oluyor biliyor musun genellikle? Bu prototiptir, carttır, cırtlar bunlar nasıl milletin eline düşüyor? Şey oluyor abi. Mesela Amerika'da şeyi çok kullanıyorlar. İnsanların evleri küçük falan olduğu için veya hani büyük evler almadıkları için depo satın alıyorlar. Depo satın alan adamlar depoya bırakıyor bütün eşyaları. Depoda yıllarca duruyor. Sonra depoyun parasını ödemedikleri için o depolar satılıyor. Başkası alıyor. Oradan insanların eline düşüyor.
It actually looks all exactly
Veya adam şirketten ayrılıyor. Ben bunu yüksek fiyattan satarım diyor. Satıyor. Bir de
the
oluyor.
same. Now up here I have a production model Xbox One X. This production model was manufactured September of 2017. The Xbox One X was released in November of 2017. This one was manufactured
Hala
in
satışta
April of
plate'ler.
2017. So that definitely supports the label on the back
Hayır,
saying
bu
this is a prototype.
2.0.
And as I'm looking at it, I see no differences.
Bu
Even all
versiyonu
the
değil.
labeling is exactly the same
Bu
from the
öbür
prototype
versiyonu.
and the production model. But what I'm really wondering is what does the
Tasarım
prototype
değiştirdiler.
board look like? And this prototype
Aynen,
hard drive
telif
is a 1
yemesinler diye.
terabyte.
Evet,
and it's
değiştirdiler
manufactured by
onu.
Seagate. On the production model power supply, we've got this little box up here with the part number, and then we also have the certifications, which are not on this
Hayır Knox. Bir tane daha değiştirdiler. Senin dediğin 6 ay önceki olay. Sonra bir kere daha dava yediler. Sonra bir daha
And we do have
değiştirdiler.
some red marks on this clamp. I'm not sure whether that's from maybe it being opened up before or maybe this is a prototype clamp. It says 05 October of 2016. Let's take a look at the clamp from the production
Renkleri
model
3D
that I've got over
printleyebilirsin,
here.
hiçbir
The prototype
sıkıntı
model
olmaz.
is labeled October 5,
Akıllıca lan.
2016.
Aslında denemek
and the
lazım.
production model is labeled November 8, 2017. So at least the X clamp was manufactured about a year before the Xbox One X was released. Let's see if the prototype model came with the perfect amount of thermal paste. That is definitely not the perfect amount, so we'll need to fix that once we get this one fixed up. Let's see if there's any differences between this prototype motherboard and the production model. After looking very carefully at both of these boards,
Fark
I
yok
just
sanki.
see nothing that is different.
Memory çipleri aynı. VRAM'lerin yerleri aynı. Power ünitesinin yeri aynı. SSD'nin yeri aynı. SATA girişinin pardon. Aynı o arada bu.
Look pretty much exactly the same. Now an interesting thing is this USB port on the prototype board is marked. I don't know whether
O developer USB'si.
that's from, you know, if somebody else took it apart or if that is from
Yeah.
the factory. I'm not really sure. But
O yüzden işaretleniyor. Bir data aktarmak istiyorsanız o USB kullanabiliyorsunuz sadece. Mehmet Ali Koyse çok teşekkür 13. ayın canımsın. En iyi abonem sana hoş geldin. İçim Aruk 22 milyar yıl. Çok teşekkür ederim canımıza hoş geldin.
The production model says Cactus MB, and the prototype model says CADV-28A. No idea what any of that means. Maybe one of my viewers will be able to shed some
Neden
light
peki?
on these designations. So
Bir
this
tanesine şey yapıyorsun ki yani güvenlik. Sadece güvenlikte değil yani genel olarak bir tanesinden şey yaparsın. Data aktarımına izin verirsin.
prototype board looks to be a pretty late
Konsollarda
stage
öyle oluyor
prototype,
genelde.
but as you saw earlier, it won't show up on the screen. So let's see if we can fix it. And one of the first things I always suspect with this type of problem is this little redriver chip right here. Now,
Ozan EFT indirdim bak aklıma geldi. Yarın serverlar açılmayacak ama olsun. Yani yarın update geliyor ama çalışmayacak hiçbir şey. Ama indir.
Derek included his
Fagnir
own
çok
chip
teşekkür
when
ederim.
he
Bir
sent
senedir
this in.
abone olduğun için
So what I'm
canımsın.
gonna
En iyi
do
abonem.
is
Sana
remove
hoş
this
geldin.
chip and install this chip. Before we get to this repair, let's talk about today's sponsor, the Ridge Wallet. The Ridge Wallet comes in over 30 colors and
Orders.
styles,
İndir,
including
indir.
carbon fiber and burnt titanium. It holds up to 12 cards
Yine
plus room
reklam.
for cash, and
Anla
Ridge
ki.
Wallets have over 40,000 five-star reviews. I love the fact that Ridge includes additional screws and a screwdriver just in case you need it for your Ridge wallet. The durable materials means each wallet comes with a lifetime warranty. In fact, the Ridge team is so confident that you'll like it, they're gonna let you test drive it for 45 days. And after that, if you don't love it, you can send it
yüzden
right
nasıl
back for
güzel
a
mi?
full refund. If you're looking for
Ben
a
hiç
Ridge wallet for
beğenmiyorum
yourself
açıkçası.
or to give as a gift, use my link in the description and code TRONIXFIX for
Bence çok
10% off
çirkinler.
your order. Now let's check out this motherboard. Anytime I have one of these in for repair, I like to check the HDMI port pins just to make sure none of them are loose. On the Xbox One X, I have seen pins come loose, and that can cause the same problem that we're having. So I just go through and check each one. And they're all nice and tight and soldered down correctly on this board. So now we're gonna replace this redriver chip. Now before I put this new chip onto the board, I need to go through and tin all
güzel
these
filipledi
little
be.
pads and the big ground plane on the back. If I put it on here just like this, there's a good chance that one or more of these pads will not fully connect to the pads on the board. Whereas if I put a little bit of
Bu
solder on
adam
each pad, they will
ama
stick very
pastayı çok
easily.
seviyor ha.
Derek and his wife Curry run a
Ya,
repair and
bol
resale
bol
business.
kullanıyor.
And Derek said that his wife does most of the repairs when they need them done, but he wanted to
İşe
send this to
yarıyor
me
çünkü
so
abi.
more people could enjoy watching the prototype being opened and seeing what's inside. They also have a YouTube channel called General
Luis
Malice, and I'll link it in the
Rossman'ın
description
yayınlarını
below if you're
izlesen
interested to see what they do.
Adam her yeri pasta.
Seviyor abi, seviyor. Kokusunu çekiyormuş değil mi aslında, o nedeni oymuş.
And that looks pretty good. Got all the joints soldered on correctly and solidly. So now we can install this back into the Xbox and see if that'll fix it. Okay, so now this is interesting. So this APU chip on the prototype board, it doesn't have the Xbox logo. It doesn't say 4K on it. It just has these little numbers right here. So this makes me wonder if this chip is the main thing that was the prototype on this board. This is the chip off the production board. As you can see, like I said, the logo and the 4K. It even says Xbox One down here. One
Pasta
thing
değil
we
abi,
don't
flux.
need to prototype
Tam işte lehim
is
pastası.
the perfect amount of thermal paste. There we go. Now we can get this thing back together and see if that fixed it. Malic acid, citric acid, chili powder. What is this? Not totally sure what cherry bombs are.
Peki neden random böyle bir
Strangely kind of good though. I'm not quite sure if I want another one or not.
Yemek
If you like this
yemesine
video, I
geçtik.
think you'll like the video where I bought 5 broken Xbox Series X's to see if I could fix them. I'll leave a link for that video up on your screen now so you can come hang out with me over
Pasta
there
yedi
and see
sandım.
if I could fix them. Oh,
Şimdi
and you
tadım
probably want to know
yapıyorum.
if this works too. Well, let's check it out. Do we have anything on the screen?
öldü.
Ah,
Let's
that's what I'm
go.
talking
Tek
about.
attı.
Thank you again to Derek and Curry for sending this
Vallahi.
in. If you
İyiyiz. Orada sizliklerin işlemciye bağlı olduğunu söylemiştin. Bu dediğine bir karşı yorumlarda çıktı. O salak. Çok netim. No. Onun için sadece physics örnek verebilirsin. Konsollarda physics diye bir şey yok. Ve physics'i de Nvidia'da kullanmıyor yıllardır. Yok, yayın kapanmayacak ya. Oyun geçeceğim şimdi. Physics güzel bir şeydi bu arada. Nvidia balonu değildi. Physics çok iyi çalışan bir şeydi. Yani bir dönem physics ciddi hayvan gibi işlem gücünü alıp çalıştıran bir şeydi de.
Fizik zaten ilk Nvidia'nın değildi de Nvidia satın aldı.
Ha, Nvidia satın aldı. Niye yok abi
Evet.
şimdi? Abi işte
Bu var
ya,
aslında.
var hala duruyor. Teknik olarak çip içinde duruyor da kimse Physics'i kullanmıyor.
Ya o oyun motoruna göre evet.
İşte oyun motoru Physics'i destekliyor. Abi yazılım. O yüzden. Yani şey gibi oldu o. Şu anda yapsa Nvidia onu yapardı ama. Yani şöyle bir şey var. Physics şu anda mesela Nvidia tek kart çıkarsa Physics tutar. Çünkü şey olarak kullanır. Gerçi tutmaz. Şu yüzden tutmaz bak. Niye tutmadı, şimdi daha mantıklı aldım. Şimdi şöyle bir şey var. Kimse oyun motorunu Physics üzerine kurmak istemez. Çünkü PC'ye yazılmıyor oyunlar. Konsollara yazıldığı için ve konsollar Physics destekleyemeyeceği için Nvidia kullanmıyor hiçbir konsol. Kendi şeylerini kullanıyorlar. Ee, o yüzden hani direkt bütün fizik motorunu fizik üzerine yazmazlar. Fiziksi sadece ek. Hani Nvidia para verdiyse, reklam bütçesi verdiyse ek olarak eklerler. Oyunların
Bu arada
konsola yazılma
fizik
dönemi ne zaman biter? PC daha fazla oyun aldığında.
Bu arada fizik sadece hardware çözümü de değil. Hani aynı zamanda software çözümü. Orada biri Max Exodus hakkında yazmış da hani bunu şey gibi düşün. Nvidia Hairworks ama aynı zamanda hardware akseleratörü de var.
Evet evet, yani fizik teknik olarak bir hani altyapı veriyor. Okey, çok dışı burada olunca için canımsın. En iyi haber abisin asla. Asla bu arada. Konsollara yazılma dönemi asla bitmeyecek. Ve konsollara yazmak daha kolay. Escape Simulator mı oynasam ya? Omega Update bu ne? Yok mu? Yok mu? Var ya. Volchos var. Ozan da burada. Bitirdik. Yine tekrar bitirdik ya. Var. Bunu tekrar bitirdik. Konsol yazmak ne kolay. Sadece bir tane oyuna yazıyorsun çünkü. Bir tane cihaza yazıyorsun çünkü, daha doğrusu.
Tek target'ım var ve target sürekli değişiyor.
iOS gibi düşün abi. iOS yazmak daha kolay. Yani milyonlarca şey yazmaktansa. Biz Omega'yı yapmamışız. Metaverse. Aman. Android Apple olayı bu arada. Birebir aynı hatta yani. Karşılaştırmada. E-konsol için de aynı mantık geçerli. Evet ama e-konsol kimsenin sikinde değil. Ya şöyle, e-konsoldaki en büyük problem ne biliyor musunuz? Oyun yapımı, yani e-konsolunun insanlar oyunların daha ucuz olmasını bekliyor. 60 dolar vermek istemiyor. 60 dolara vermek istemediği için de 60 dolar olan hiçbir şey almıyor ama iyi grafik bekliyor. İyi grafik olunca da oyunu 60 dolara çıkarmak gerekiyor. O yüzden oyun yapılmıyor. Öyle aptal durum oluyor. The Chulu çok teşekkür bu arada abone olduğun için canımsın. En ya ben abi, sana hoş geldin. Mesela PlayStation Vita. PlayStation Vita'nın sıçmasının tamamen sebebi o. Yani hayvan gibi grafik istiyordu. Yani şeyler ama yani. Ama evet, Switch'in powerhouse olmasına gerek yok işte. Nintendo onu fark etti. Grafik önemli değil abi. Benimkiler ölü. Mesela ben bunun şeyini indirmiştim lan. Onu deneyeyim bir dakika tek başıma. Workshop. Wankel Bank Heist Play. PlayStation Pro'ların kaç yılı var? Var da ya. Oh no. Kaç tane muz olduğunu mu sayacağız? 1, 4, 5. 3. Oh no. 3, 6, 7, 8. 3, 5, 6. Acaba ana büyük muzu saymayacak mıyız?
Büyük muz mu?
Monka Giga muz.
Ben küçük muzları seviyorum.
Oh no. Yok mu speedrun kapışmamız?
Ne, muz konusunda mı?
Tabii muz konusunda.
Yok, ben yenemem.
Nasıl ya?
Muzum yok.
Nasıl ya?
Yanındaki. Şimdi bakıyoruz. Şimdi böyle fantastik anlık kararlar verdiğinden dolayıdır ki 8 dakikaya yükleniyor oyun.
Ah be abi.
Bu süre zarfında ne yapabiliriz?
Ben açıyorum şu
Ben
an ama.
sana yönlendirebilirim ben seni.
Tabii
İstersen.
yönlendir abi hemen. Asfalttan süreyim
Onun
mi?
dışında asfalttan git abi. Onun dışında Valorant maçı bitti.
Hayırlı
onu
olsun.
geçti.
Ne oldu abi?
Aa, sen çok yok etti Liquid'i.
Oo, ne diyorsun?
Tabii,
O zaman bir dakika.
Yakın bile değildi
Ona
maç yani.
ona şey yapacaksak da indirmiyorsan bir dakika bekle. Çağır Ozan'a çağır.